Now, the scarcity of petroleum products in Kenya is gradually winding down as the authorities throw in a number of measures to ensure local availability of the products. In the meantime, the country's new finance bill goes before the parliament this week for a debate. And chatting to me on these developments now from Nairobi is a tax expert and oil and gas specialist, Joseph Mwaniki. Thank you for making it on the show tonight. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's good to have you. Thank you. It's a Monday. What's the latest on the fuel scarcity in Kenya right now?
What we can say is that the fuel prices have pretty much stabilized across the country. Obviously, the government had a meeting with the oil marketing companies on the 27th of April 2022. And what they did, they moved to pay the unpaid stabilization fund, which was due to the oil marketing companies. Then they also entered into an agreement to ensure that there is adequate pumpable fuel stocks across the country. And that meant that the government was to ensure that oil marketers ensure the 60% to 40 ratio of local to transit product. Then they also dedicated 2 vessels, one for petrol prices and another vessel for diesel prices of about 100 million liters each to ensure that there is adequate stock.
But how have the authorities handled the situation so far? You think this is a problem resolved, or is just being pushed to one corner? At least you folks can move around a little bit now until perhaps the problem resurfaces. Is this a final solution, or is just a stopgap measure?
I think it's actually a stopgap measure because fuel prices continue to increase internationally, right? That has not been solved. What we've seen in the current last 2-3 weeks, fuel prices have continued to increase a bit. And so what the government is trying to do with this stabilization fund is just to cushion the fuel consumers in the country, but really not curing the real problem, because when it comes to compensating the oil marketing companies for the same, there has been a lag in getting that done on time.
But what were the underlying issues for Kenya in terms of fuel availability, including the distribution of these products to your neighbors like Uganda and Tanzania, those who depend on you?
A big problem with looking at the fuel prices comparable to our neighbors in Tanzania and in Uganda. In those countries, the government did not come up with a stabilization fund to cushion their consumers, and therefore there ended up being a higher price across the border compared to the prices in Kenya. And obviously, where you have unscrupulous businessmen, some would, smuggle the goods across the border, get a higher margin. That was one problem. Then obviously there was the issue of paying the stabilization fund on time, which meant that the oil marketers were having a problem of working capital to finance their day-to-day activities, including purchasing enough stocks for the market.
But how has the petrol products scarcity impacted on general prices of goods and services like food and transportation in Kenya?
Boason, as you know, fuel really affects services industry, which is a core part of our driver of our economy. Services like transport, tourism, which and also manufacturing of produce, even agricultural produce, and looking at those sectors that have been directly affected by the fuel prices, that comes with a ripple effect, of increased end products of consumer goods.
Okay, so in terms of where things are going, tell me about this new finance bill very quickly, which goes into debate the parliament this week. What is in that document? What can Kenya? Would there be more higher tax on Kenyans?
Yes, and I will pick on the most pressing ones. Number one is the increase of excise duty on motorcycles by 12%. And motorcycles really drive the economy across the country by unemployed young people. There's also the proposal to increase or to introduce VAT on maize flour and wheat flour, which are staple foods across the country. There is also the proposal to increase capital gains from the current 5% to 15%, quite a huge, significant change. And also, I can also pick on another very pressing one, which has come to a shock to many taxpayers in the country. The government is proposing to introduce a policy whereby when you lose a case at the tax appeals tribunal, going to appeal at the High Court, you'll have to pay a 50% of the tax in dispute in advance as you wait for the resolution. So those are four main very pressing items that have been proposed in the finance bill.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sure you are putting your eyes on your general elections, which is coming up in August. Everyone is looking at how all of these issues will play into your next general elections. It's going to be an interesting time in Kenya, where President Uhuru Kenyatta will be ending his term in office. Joseph Mwaniki, tax consultant and oil and gas specialist in Nairobi, thank you so much for your time on the show tonight, and have a pleasant night in Nairobi.